And here we are, week 31. It was going to be 5 weeks. Now it's week 31. We just keep going and going and going because financial sustainability keeps going, going, and going. And this is a volatile environment, and gathering like this each week is a great opportunity to hear from our community and work together to become more financially successful. But when we talk about financial success, we're also including culture and competitive edge. So happy 2021. If you joined us last week, we gave you a greeting. We'll give you another one today. Again, use the chat. This is a roundtable. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions today. We'll do our best to answer the questions. The roundtables are produced, sponsored, conducted, all the above by Qnity. My colleague Michelle, who is sitting to my left, does an amazing job of doing research and so many other things to get us ready. We also have some sponsors, Aura and Vish. If you haven't listened to their segments, they're recorded on our portal because they gave some amazing information as it related to profitability. Last week, we got pretty deep into the numbers. We got into tax issues, PPP, pitfalls to look for in terms of taxes, et cetera. John did a great job. Past recordings are posted in the Plan for Profits portal. If you're not enrolled in our Plan for Profit curriculum, you should, because then you'll have access to the other 30 weeks. Just a heads up, we will have our next roundtable not next week. 2 reasons we're not going to do it next week. Number one, we have another event the day before, which I'm going to get to in a moment. And it's also Inauguration Day. Probably a good day to take a little bit of time off. And it looks like I'm also traveling too. So as I mentioned, we have Jana Westerbeek and Megan Jasper from Gasper. We're going to introduce and bring them in just a moment here. They will officially become members of our esteemed Brain Trust, which keeps growing and growing and growing. And the contributions by all of them, of which many of you are on this call today that are members of the Brain Trust, really makes this community possible. Next week on Sunday and Monday, Serious Business is happening. This is I don't know what anniversary of Serious Business. It has to be 25 or 30 years, something like that. And it's always been this event that we pretty much planned our entire January around, because it's amazing speakers, amazing community, et cetera. And this year is, of course, going to be different because it's virtual, but it will have no less of an impact. So if you're not signed up for that, you should. Heads up, really important for all of you, next Tuesday, January 19th, 10 a.m. To 12 p.m. Central Time, we will be having a special 2 to 10 segment. We are going to go through data. We're going to go through an exercise we call In the Barrel. We're going to have conversation starters. We're going to take a lot of the best of 2 to 10 and bring it into a very condensed format. And this will be the official launch of 2 to 10 for 2021. This is the only event that's available in the 2 to 10 suite of offerings, et cetera, that is open to non-2 to 10 members. Normally with 2 to 10, you need to qualify, you need an invitation, you need to be multi-location, all the above. So whether you are multi-location, want to be multi-location, are a member of 2 to 10 or not, you should definitely be part of this. We're going to have plenty of peer interaction, and we're really excited about it. So we're going to put all our energies into getting ready for that next week, and we'll skip the Wednesday roundtable. You should have gotten a 9-grid, one of Qnity's core grid-based thinking tools to take notes. And you're going to take some notes today because of the amazing work that Jan and Megan have done. And all right, without any further ado, let's get you off of mute. And we're going to have a chance to see Megan and Janet. Good morning, Janet and Megan. How are you two today?
Good morning, Tom and Michelle. Thank you all. And Terry and Amanda and everyone else that's out there, Carla. Happy New Year.
Excellent. Megan, how are you this morning? Okay, they're sitting side by side, so they're going to be doing a little bit of a mute dance here. So I'll give a little more transition time between the two of you because they want to be together with each other, but They also have separate sounds. So Megan, I'm going to take that as a good morning. It's nice to see both of you today. So, well, let's first of all get grounded on who is Gadabout. And Jan, I'm going to go to that one for you. I'm going to give you just sort of my summary. Gadabout is a multi-generational salon spa company. It's a market leader based in Tucson, Arizona. You have two brands. Your main brand is Gadabout. You also have another brand called Vervi. And you are absolutely market leaders. You have how many locations right now? You'll have to refresh me because I know there was a change in that, which is part of the story.
So we organically downsized. So now we are six strong salons.
Yeah. And when she says organically downsized, I don't want to get too deep into this, Jana, but organically downsized means that you came into 2020. So basically back in December of 19, you had a triggering event, also known as a fire. So when you say organically downsize, why don't you just speak about that briefly, okay?
Certainly. So we had a fire in one of our main locations, December 20th of 2019. So we entered 2020 with that at our tail and trying to dissolve all of that. So moving our staff to another location, a temporary location, and then, you know, when COVID hit and everything changed, we had a tremendous amount of organic transformation in the past year that we will absolutely remember 2020 because of. However, we're going to really remember it because of the compensation changes we made in 2020 and 2021.
Now, we've known each other for years, and I've always admired you and your brand, as well as many of these other people that have already given you a shout out today, because we've gotten to know each other through 2 to 10 and other occurrences. And we started looking at some projects with you, you know, a wish list of things that you wanted to do. A variety of different big initiatives related with software, related with compensation, related with a lot of different things. But after spending a little bit of time getting grounded and prioritized, we honed in on compensation change. And
right.
For those of you that are out there, compensation change as it relates to service providers, and let me know if you agree with this in the chat. This is one of the highest stakes areas to address in your business. Any change in compensation for service providers is high risk. Even with a favorable change, it could result in staff attrition and could be a trigger point. So again, even a positive change in service provider compensation can be charged. So this is and Jackie's agreeing with me, and we're hearing some feedback. So we approached this compensation project with a lot of thought. And I want to congratulate you and Megan because you didn't take any shortcuts, and it was quite a journey. It started out with throwing a lot of different ideas out there, but ultimately making it happen. So Jana, why don't you kind of speak to that from a big picture standpoint, and I'll lead us through with some more questions here.
So originally it was one of our goals for 2020, and we knew that we wanted to redevise our compensation. And then through all the organic transformation, as well as having 75 people relocate from our company, and also not rebuilding the building that we had, we decided that it was a perfect opportunity because we were in front of a totally different company than we had ever had. And so we started doing our due diligence. So we first invited all of our about 25% of our staff in, and we interviewed them and asked them what they loved about our compensation, what they wished for, how we could change it, what they loved about all of our benefits. And we got really great feedback. And the primary stickler was that we had a 10% service fee that we have had since the beginning of time. And if you were hired 20 years ago, you thought it was for interns. If you were hired 10 years ago, you thought it was for insurance. And if you were hired in the last 10 years, you have no clue what it was for. So we knew that that was our directive.
So operational charge. Now, let me do a little backfilling for the group. 75 people. There's many on this call that don't even have 75 people in their company. So let's just say that Gadabout had a very high head count. And so this is a larger business. I'm not going to reveal their sales volume, but let's just say that they were regular members of the $10 million plus Roundtable. You had to do at least 10 million to be part of it. So, you know, this is an organization at a high head count. So 75 out of about how many service providers, Jana?
Oh, there were probably about 200 and.
Yeah, so
What
out
is
of
some of
about
the-
200. So that's a serious drop in head count any way you look at it. And so, you know, I think we can all kind of read between the lines here. That's a big hit to revenue. All right. So now the operational charge is what they called it. Now, for those of you, I'm going to give you guys a little bit to make sure our sound works here. So operational charge is what they called it. It could be called a service charge, a product charge, an amenity charge, whatever you call it. It was a deduct off the top. So in other words, if the commission rate was 46%, 10% came off right off the top, and then the commission was calculated on that. Let's come back to you guys here. I'm actually going to pull up some slides. All right, and we've got a few different things. So we started working together around this time, and we prioritized compensation as an area that we wanted to address. So now it started out a little messy, didn't it? I mean, when I say messy, messy in that there's a lot of different things that we needed to figure. One of your big goals, Jana, was make it simple. Is that correct?
That was absolutely at the top of our priority list. And you know, and then we recruited Tom and another advocate for us financially, and we set our budget and we started trying to go through everything. We were breaking down all our level system, our retail commission, everything. And then Tom said, okay, let's get back to simple, especially after you see everything we were trying to accomplish.
And so for any of you that are looking at your compensation, it's okay to start with everything you want. And Jana had a lot of priorities. I mean, it was really Jana and Megan, the whole Gadabout team, and Frank, they had priorities. And let's go through some of these here. We wanted to make sure that it was simple and also visual so that people could understand it. We wanted to make sure that it was as close to being P&L neutral as possible. We knew there was going to be a spend associated with it, but we didn't want to take a big financial hit. We knew that communication was key to this. It's one thing to change compensation, but it needs to be communicated. We knew, as Jana suggested, we wanted to tackle the service charge, which they call an operational charge. This is a really big one, and this is where a lot take shortcuts. We didn't want any financial surprises. And with these kind of numbers, the stakes were very high. So analysis was a really big piece to this. We wanted to adjust performance guidelines. We knew that we could evaluate pricing. There was multiple tiers involved. And we also wanted to increase the love stream and make sure the connection with the team, because as to Jana's point, Jana, you really wanted to keep the people that really wanted to be there. And then wanted to get buy-in. So back to you, Jana.
No, and I just wanted to not only just keep the people, but we wanted to show them how much we valued them right now, because through all the transformation, they were the ones that felt it the most. And now we're going to go into this conversation about compensation. And we had to share with them that because they're servicing their guests at an all-time high, we were not only eliminating the 10%, we were also adjusting so they could keep the 2% that we had given them when we returned from COVID, because we believe that their service value has elevated, and we had to honor them for that. So there were a lot of moving points.
So let's reference something you said. So one of the things that you did is you noticed that many members of your team were suffering. I mean, they weren't able to make the kind of money they were. And so what you decided to do as a company is you decided to, and this would have been back in, Megan helped me out here, I think this would have been back in probably June or July, there was a 2% across the board increase in commission rates, correct?
Yes.
And that was a temporary increase just to give people a little bit more income and to help them through. So let's talk about that first chapter for a moment.
You talk about that, Megan. with our mask, safety first.
We had to get next to each other so you could hear both of us. We had an across the board price elevation or service commission elevation in July right off the top. So we took 2% and elevated every service provider in our company that additional 2%. And then we also paid their retail commission on every paycheck. So rather than waiting until the next month to receive their retail, we just wanted to get as much money as we possibly could into all of our service providers' hands. Not only were they not layering guests anymore, we were seeing one guest at a time. We were having an abundance of no-shows. We were, multitudes of our guests hadn't come back yet. So we were just doing everything we possibly could in that moment to offer the opportunity for our service providers to take home more.
And the range, just for this group here, and the band is on the low end. Back in July, before the 2% increase, what was the low end? What was the high end, Megan, for commission rate?
10% operational charge, and then we started at 40% and went to 48%. And then, of course, we have been in business for 41 years, so we had some outliers.
Many, many, many.
All right, so now I'm looking at many people on this call, and I know myself as a salon owner, former salon owner, that when you're in business that long, your compensation system becomes almost like a tapestry of rates. There's people that are grandfathered in, grandmothered in, uncled in, and you have special cases. And if I wish it was as clean as simple, but I know a lot of people on this call are going to be nodding their head. We understand. So like many, so we're given sort of the general rule of thumb, 40 to 48%. You had some outliers, plus 10% charge. All right, so now we go, if you're 40, you go to 42. If you're 42, you go to 44. But we keep the operational charge, right?
Yeah, kept the operational charge and just elevated 2%.
Okay, then we regroup and say, okay, now it's August. And August was when we really started to tackle this. And we said, this is the project that we have to do intentionally. We got to get it done by the end of the year. And this is where we went through all the process that's necessary to do it. And I'm so proud of you guys. You took no shortcuts on this. So now if we're going to the 40 to 48%, it's a question by James, that is before the operational charge. All right. So if someone was at 42%, the operational charge came off after that. All right.
Yes.
Prior to.
Prior to that. I'm sorry. But what I'm
So
saying
they were
is
paid 90%. They were paid off of 90% of all commission.
And
I'm trying to address the question how it was asked. The
Oh.
question was asked is that the rate's 48%, then you do the operational charge. So so when they read it, it's a 48% commission, and then they take the 10% off. So it ends up being about 43% or something like that net, correct?
Yeah. And
Okay.
so the reason there's that scale 40 to 48 is we have 5+ skill sets. So it's 40, 42, 44, 46, 48, and then they all jumped up 2%.
Okay. All right. So now we go through this process. And one of the things that was very important to you is you didn't want to have that takeaway. So here you are in July, you're giving people 2% more, and you don't want to go back and say, all right, we're going to take that away. You're going back down. All right. So that was an important thing to navigate through this. All right. So takeaways are very hard to swallow, right, guys?
We're not good at it.
No.
Who is good at it? So I'm going to pull this screen up here, and I'm going to kind of see if I can summarize. So these were some of the things we're looking at. Now, this is just an overall summary of it. All right. So the summer, 2% increase, and then we did our work, and then the end result is eliminate the 10% charge, which is a big number. I mean, everybody can do the math. I mean, you start looking at in the P&L, that's a big number. So here is something that was done very well by you guys. What you did is you did a compensation calculator and showed people the math, because that 10% takeaway needed to be addressed. All right. It's not that we can just all of a sudden have 10% go away in a service charge. That would kill the P&L. So what you did is you showed everybody what their new commission rate would be without the service charge, without the operational charge. And that was different for each person. So you did a side by side saying, all right, you got to understand, we're going to take away the operations chart. And one of the reasons we did this was to make it simple. All right. But we also want to be fair, and it'd be fair for them to have a new rate. And then just to kind of give you the summary, there is a price increase that is helping to fund us. There's also reducing other expenses. And then a really, really big piece, and this is the piece so many miss, but you guys have not missed this. It is the communicate and connect and bring life to it and do one-on-one. So let's go there for a little bit, okay? And really how you communicated the changes and what the reception was with your team, because that's a lot to learn and go through. So let's go there next.
So I think originally, after we had created the formula and how it was going to work and benefit all of us, we contacted all of our outliers first, because we knew that they were the ones that were going to carry the message, good, bad, or otherwise, into the locations. So we set up meetings with each and every one of them, and there were 25 or 30, and we're 42 years this year. So it was a lot, but it was the best opening of a discussion, because these are the people that have been committed for 10 years plus, and they love our company and they stayed. You know, their friends, their colleagues, the people that worked by them, they might have left, but they stayed. So it was a really great time to honor that. And then Megan just found this great little, not only did we have the calculator and all the tools, but she had this great little calendar that the managers set up all of our staff. So we literally met with 125 of our technicians in the last 2 weeks and had one-on-ones, either by Zoom, in person. And they all knew that they were going to walk away receiving more than they came with. So it was an easy conversation, because we also elevated their compensation at the same time that we altered it. So I don't think we could have done it without that. And then showing them the calculator, Tom, which was an amazing piece, and showing them how it wasn't really about their percentage of commission. It was absolutely about what they were determined to do. One more guest a week, one more guest a day, one more treatment. And it was just phenomenal how Megan worked with them to show them that it's all in their own hands. It's not about the company, it's about them.
So this is the calculator. And so you went through this with each individual. Is that right, Megan, as part of this process?
Yeah, so we actually started with a little calculator that walked them through what their actual commission was prior to the 2% elevation, and then what their actual commission was that they were currently getting paid. So they could see that their number, where they were actually getting paid on their very last paycheck, was whatever that percentage, whatever it was going to be. So if they were at 46%, yeah, so you can see it. This is great. So this is 3 different ways for them to look at their commission. So I wanted them to see that no matter what we were doing, they were walking away with more.
Take home.
So on the left-hand side, that average service dollar is their post-COVID. So the last 6 months that we've been back in business, that's what their current average weekly service dollar is. And then we showed it 3 different ways. So as of January 2020, so pre-COVID, what their commission rate was with a 10% operational charge. So they were at 48% with $141 taken off the top. So their take home was $611. And then in July, we did a 2% increase. So we went from 48 to 50, and their take home went up a little bit. And now our opportunity is we're doing this service adjustment. They're going to keep that 2%, but because we're rounding up, because they're a vital part of our team, it's being taken off of the very whole 100%. So no operational charge. And you can see their take home even grows from the 2% elevation. So this person is leaving this conversation making $40 more per week. And then I went to that big page that Tom had shown right before this that annualizes it. So it's like $40 a week. Let's talk about what that looks like to you annually. And I think
I'll pull that up, Megan. So,
perfect.
so actually, let me go back to this for a moment, okay? And I know people are into this. So basically, let me be a cynic here. So Megan, you're telling me, or Megan or Jenny, you're telling me I'm going from 50 to 46%. That doesn't compute.
Sure.
Did anybody say that?
Yeah. Yeah, we had a few people.
How did you handle it?
So the conversation right before we got to this screen was a worksheet calculator that was off of $1,000. So we took $1,000 and said, okay, if you have a round even number and you take 10% off, that means you're taking $100. And then 90% is 900. Your commission right now is 48%. This is what your take home looks like. So that means if we create the actual percentage off of the 1,000, it's going to be this number. And usually it has a decimal. Usually it's like 43.8%. And so then we added 2%. So that went to 50%. So now your take home is $450 or 45% off of the whole. So what your last paycheck was showing, if we showed you two different ways, it was either going to be 10 and 50 or 45 whole. And they were like, oh, okay. And so then we could get into this conversation about, let me show you what it means for your take home. Even though the number looks different, just know the way math works. And we know there's math anxiety. We know that math isn't the favorite subject, but let me just show you the way math works. It's actually working in your favor today.
And a couple of times we had to talk about the whole pizza. You know, you got a whole pizza, you take one piece away, there's 9 pieces left. And they were like, oh, okay. So it's not of the whole. So it was interesting. And we even learned about people that have number dyslexia. I'd never heard of that before. So, I mean, we have artists that we're dealing with. So it was really quite an interesting conversation.
So there had to be trust built as part of this. I mean, you've been building trust with this team for 42 years. This business has been based on integrity and trust. And so that type of goodwill, and that shouldn't be lost on all of you tuning in here. I mean, building trust and having a great culture, and it, is vitally important. And here's the deal. What you don't understand, you don't trust.
Right.
And I think you guys did a really good job of breaking it down and showing through. So Megan, I'm going to there's some other slides here, and let me just see if there's any, I'm going to show a few of them here just to show you what's in the family of slides here. And we don't have to go through all of these. Is there any that you want to highlight with the group? Yeah,
will you go to the one that has the green and the orange? And one more, that one. So this slide was, and this was all a graph. So I was like changing numbers as we were talking, but this slide to me was so exciting, especially for our masters that might be at like the top of the scale, or even our new people, because I could show them, in this case, it's a $10 price increase. So if you look in the top right corner, you'll see there's a 10 there, which grows the average ticket to $132. But what we would talk about here is that's their opportunity. Today we just sat down and we had a conversation about their commission rate. And so their commission was actually growing. They were getting a 6.5% raise, which annualized came to $2,000 to them take home. However, what's most important is what's in their hands. A commission increase is like the icing on the cake. It's not how you're going to build your career and find your success. So let's talk about, we're doing a price increase. So that's going to be on average $5. So $5 of this $10 incremental elevation is a given just for showing up to work. Like, you don't have to do anything different. But what if you did one extra treatment a day and we could grow that average ticket to 132? You're not only doubling what your commission raise was, but you're creating the opportunity for what's next and your future success. Because once a guest has a treatment now, they're going to have a treatment later. And so we talk about the commission really is a great number, and we're excited to have that conversation, but we want to talk about what's next. And what if you saw one more guest, like you improved your timing, and so you were able to get one more guest a weekend, that's shaving 10 minutes off services, or what it looked like to do splash lights with every solid. And so we talked about that, and we let them like come up with what that number was that they wanted to create. And then we talk about the opportunity that they're going to sit with their general manager and come up with whatever that goal is. And we are going to help them track it on a weekly basis, which is what we've always wanted to do, but we've never really been consistent with it. And so now the general managers have the opportunity to track what this what if goal is through Tom and the 17-week tracker, and create their own benchmark and see what's possible when they just put their mind to doing something a little bit different.
I think this was a really important part of the process to change the conversation away from increases in money in your pocket to come from higher rates to what are you going to do about it? I mean, you're in control here. And it's pretty simple. You follow 2-number growth, Qnity's 2-number growth, more clients or higher ticket. Really simple. So embedded in this was to move the conversation to, okay, these are the changes. Now you're in control. This is what will happen if there's one more client, increase in app. So that became a very interactive process, more of a coaching tool. Changing the conversation was a really big part of this, because it was like, I need to make more money. I need to make more money. I want a higher rate. I want a higher rate, you know, blah, blah, blah. We've all heard that before. My standard phrase to that is we pay as much as we can afford and no more, you know?
And I think the best part,
very generous. Yep.
And that's what they left with. So, you know, when you start a conversation and you end a conversation, the best part was they left feeling that they had the opportunity to make the changes. And it was the best we've ever done.
Well, you talked about feelings. Jana, you said when we've been working on this for months behind the scenes, but when we were doing a little prep yesterday, you said you feel more encouraged about your company than ever before. Could you speak to that?
Well, I think because now we're meeting in the middle, and I feel like before they used to say, oh, I pay for that intern, I pay for that product, I pay for this. And just sitting down one-on-one, talking about how we're in this together, and if we're going to survive, we're going to have to all participate. And if we want to be successful, we're even going to have to participate at a much higher level. So what is everything from waste, and how can we change our footprint together on this universe, on this industry globally? And what are the little things that we can do on a daily basis to connect with our guests and serve as we do, but also to have an impact on what we're throwing down the sink, what we're throwing in the rubbish, what we're wasting, because we've all been living with a plethora. And I feel like just spending time together, whether it was visually, virtually, or in the same room, it was just such a great time to hear about what are they going through. We had more tears about personal experiences over the last several months, and it was just the most amazing time to connect at a totally different level, and to have that 10% out of the universe. For us, it was a cleansing for sure.
You know, a cleansing, I'm going to use that word as it relates to a service charge, and put in the chat if you have a service charge. And I've done some studies around that, and I could be off of my memory here, but I believe it's about 75 to 80% of commission-based systems that I've seen have a form of a service charge. What do you think it's going to be like out there to recruit with no service charge, with no operational charge?
He's asking
I'm already
us, right?
daydreaming
We're
about
so
it.
excited. Well, because now we have an understandable practice. Before it was like the last thing we talked about.
Yeah.
Now when people come, and now what our next phase is going to be is how are we going to take what we've done, create a budget, and pass it on to the guest service representatives and the managers, because we haven't really formulated what's next for them. And we've told them, you know, we've given every technician in our company a 2% increase, and we have to support that, because without them, we would not be here. But what's our next step, and how are we going to grow the business together? But that whole recruiting thing is we're so excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, one of the things I do want to mention to our participants today, and this is true with all members of the Brain Trust, we do ask that this is very generous of Janet and Megan to share their ideas and thoughts. We do ask that you refrain from questions are fine today. Awesome. We do request that you refrain from contacting them directly and asking for, because it's a lot of they're busy people. They're very generous. They're going to say yes, but we create a little bit of a boundary for our Brain Trust members. So please refrain from putting them in a spot where you ask them, share this, share that. You know, 2 to 10 is going to be a forum for going deeper into this. Megan has already agreed, and Jana, maybe we can get you to do it too. And to go a little bit deeper into this as we get into 2 to 10 this year. Let me pull up and a couple other things for our viewers today. First of all, I'm going to bring up the spreadsheet here. And this is the interactive tool that was used. Now, if you notice on this spreadsheet, there are multiple tabs. And there was a lot of analysis that went into this. And if you are going to get into compensation change, don't have a financial surprise. Do the math, look at all the what ifs. And there was a lot of analysis that went into this, which gave us a tremendous amount of confidence that we were making a change that would make sense. I'm not going to reveal all these different slides, but just to give you an idea in terms of the mountain of data here, there was quite a bit of stuff going on here. So I'm going to stop that share right there. And then Megan, I think we've got some other slides here. We've got some other slides. I'm going to see if any of them are relevant. I'm totally into this conversation. I'm dying to read some of the comments here, but let's just make sure that we're not missing anything here. And Megan, if there's any of these slides, is this something you want to cover?
Jana will.
Well, the nice thing about this is we showed them after the conversation was done, we talked about their new commission rate. This particular person had 11.11% increase, which is one of my favorite numbers, and they were jumping for joy. Also, with the price increase added to it to help offset. And then we went back to our retail bonus. This person happens to be a master, so they get the highest retail commission. And then we talked about beat your benchmark. So they also have another opportunity to get an additional 1% on a quarterly basis if they set their own goal and beat their goal. And then we just talked about all the other benefits. We pay your medical insurance. We pay your liability insurance. So if you get hurt at work, it's really important, you have workman's comp. And if your guest gets hurt, we have great liability. We match your FICA. I don't even think 10% of our staff knew that we pay 7.65%. And if you're an independent contractor, you have to pay 15.3. This person gets 2 weeks paid vacation. We also have a 10-year bonus. So at 13 years, they get $450. We also pay their short-term and their life insurance. And this is one of the benefits that is quite reasonable for us as a company, as far as the short-term and life insurance, but it is one of the most important things to them. They think it is just fabulous. We also talked about educator pay and what we were going to do in the future with education. So it was just a really wonderful format to communicate.
And you have some more finished graphically designed recruiting materials now that really sell the opportunity a little bit more. So many businesses out there, they don't do a good job of really selling and reselling really what's part of an employee-based compensation package. And the other thing I want to mention that's part of the plan with Gadabout is that this isn't a one and done communication on their compensation. It allows for more regular open conversations, especially since it's now easier to understand. We've taken out some more of the complexity and it's easier to understand. So let me see what else we have here.
And I just want to speak to that, Tom. I think a
Yep.
lot of the chatter was many of these people that left went to open up their own booth. And the people that stayed were like, gosh, they're telling me they're keeping all their money. They're keeping all their money. So the more we educate them on what their benefits are, we have housekeeping, we have guest service representatives. If you're out with COVID, you get paid. There are so many other things that we talked about and why it's so important to work for an organization that supports you and not just work for yourself. So I loved that about this opportunity as well, because that's the compensation. That's what we all have to offer. Being vital organizations in our communities and serving our internal customer is possibly so much more important than our external. And I think they really felt that. And that was my biggest aha through the whole thing.
And then Megan, separate from a change in compensation, what you're doing is we introduced, beat your week, beat your benchmark, and you're doing your own version of that with your team. It becomes coaching. Do you want to speak to that just for a moment? It's not necessarily related to compensation, but it relates with performance. having fun about it, having fun with it, have people compete with themselves as opposed to others. Do you want to speak to that for a moment?
So this really ties into the what if section. And so we talked about what's possible, what if they were able to do this, this, and this. And this was kind of the conclusion is for the first 2 quarters of 2021, we are no longer going to have a bonus structure that is Gadabout set on an average, or you have to work full time to be able to reach these numbers. And we just don't want to have anything that is either unattainable or not within the realm of what it looks like post-COVID. And so we really wanted to create the opportunity for every person on our team in a service capacity to be able to have the opportunity to reach a bonus wherever they are today and wherever their business is. And so if they're having to homeschool 3 days out of the week, and so they're only working with us 2 days out of the week, that's okay. We know that they're valuable and they're bringing their best self when they're here. And so we created this based off of Tom's 17-week or 17% growth, but this is what we're calling beat your benchmark. So they'll sit down with their general manager and create a goal, and whatever that goal looks like, we gave our GMs parameters so that it has to be growth. It can't be something where they're level or they're doing less than what they were doing in Q4. So they had to have a new goal and the opportunity to reach that. And then they're going to set that goal for the quarter, and then on a weekly basis, they'll track it. They'll have the opportunity to receive their numbers with their general manager. And then we made the change. This still says 11 out of 13 weeks, but our opportunity is at the end of the quarter, as long as their average benchmark is, or average achievement is higher than whatever they set their benchmark, they're going to receive a lump sum bonus of 1% total sales, which is retail and service commission combined. And they were all really excited about it. It's just a little something above and beyond what they're already going to get in their paycheck from doing something more. And the opportunity to just have a little bit of fun. And we talked about it really is the opportunity for us to partner with them to build or to rebuild their business. And one of the graphs that I don't think we showed today, and I might not have even sent it to you, Tom, is in our analysis, in our data, if you look at the spreadsheet on, it says blue graph, if you want to pull it up, is the opportunity that we were able to sit with our service providers and show them post-COVID what their business actually looks like comparatively to last year. And so a lot of them were super surprised by the fact that they were either neck and neck. If you go to the blue one, the one right next to it, this one is hard. Yeah, go to that one. Yeah, so you can, if you make it smaller, you can see all the way to the left is pre-COVID. So this service provider, she was on fire, and then we closed. And then we could talk about what their business looked like once they came back. And that this person, even though their W-2 is probably going to show that they were down for the, well, she might not, but most of them are going to show they're down for the year because we were closed in Arizona for 7 weeks. Some of them didn't come back right away. You can see because the bright blue is 2020 and the light blue is 2019. We went through and counted how many payroll periods since we've been back that they were up and up comparatively to last year. And it was almost probably 3/4 of our staff have been up coming back from COVID, and seeing one guest at a time, not layering guests in, really slowing that process down. And talking about average ticket and having thorough consultations and really taking the opportunity to focus in on the one guest that's in your chair. So this was a really fun conversation to have also. And I think it touches to that beat your benchmark.
Yeah, and I'm purposely only showing part of the screen to preserve the confidentiality of this particular employee. But yeah, this was really an important piece. You know, we had, for a time, we had like weekly Friday meetings, you know, and we were on this, and it was a lot of work. And, you know, Michelle's been a big part of this process. So Michelle, from your perspective, I'm going to put myself on mute. We've done a lot of the talking here, and this is really about Janet and Megan. But from your standpoint on this project and from your perspective, I'm going to go on mute and allow you to say a few words here.
Hello, everybody. This was such an incredible project. I'm so proud of you guys, Megan and Janet. From where we started, one of the most impactful conversations to me was when someone in your one of a service provider in the inner circle was in a conversation with us, and we were talking about her compensation. And she was an employee who loves numbers. She said, I love numbers. I love spreadsheets, but I have no idea how I get paid. I have no idea how to figure out from my totals to what I actually get in my paycheck. And that was such a game changer for our conversations, because we really needed to steer our end result to be that every single employee could understand how they got paid and how they can personally make a difference in what they're getting paid. That it's not about Gadabout giving them more, but it's about how they can personally make a difference. And I love Jana's heart so much. Almost every conversation, Jana wanted to give more. I want to give more. I want to give more. So we had to keep saying, come back. Like you're already giving so much. How can we help them to understand how much you're giving? And that heart that you have for your team is so incredible. And I think all of the people on this call are exactly like that. You all want to give as much as you possibly can. And so this process was really special, because now the team knows how much you do give and how much that is your heart, is to give them as much as possible. And I think that's how we keep members as a part of a team, as opposed to going out and trying to do something on their own. Is helping them to really feel what you are giving them. And you guys, this was literally probably hundreds of hours. We had 17 meetings together. I went back and counted when I was looking at this. And I know how many countless hours Jana and Megan, you guys put in without us involved. And so I really want to encourage you. This is a really encouraging story, everybody. And I'm one of those people who like to go take action. And so I might try and think I could replicate this on my own. Please don't do that. This was hours and hours and hours. If you're thinking about making a compensation change, we looked at hundreds of different scenarios. And so really ask us about the process, or get some help. Don't do this alone. But this was so incredible. And I'm so excited for Gadabout's future and all of the changes that you made, and how much money everybody's going to make, because your individual providers are going to be rocking it this year. So congratulations, you guys.
And I just want to thank you, Michelle. I don't know if that was my cue, but for your love and passion for what you do and how you supported us through every turn. And you would say, well, just let me ask it like this. Can I ask you that question? Can I just ask a question? And you and Tom really helped us to stay focused on what our goal was. And you let us wander a little bit, but then Tom would go, come on, come back. So we're just really grateful. We're so excited with the outcome, and we're so excited to spend the next quarter really analyzing how it works out for our company and setting new goals for the future. Because I don't know, if you would have asked me 6 months ago if I would be sitting here having this conversation with a smile on my face, I would have probably said there is no way. And my husband, for sure, Frank, would be nowhere to be found. And I think that we're all feeling the outcome now, because our staff is thanking us, and they're grateful, and they're working. And it's people like you that help people like us do what we do. And we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Well done to the Gadabout team. And Michelle, it's a great closing synopsis. And we'll get to hear the story a little bit more under the confines of 2 to 10. Megan, we had you down as a conversation starter for 2020. It was going to be back in April, but now we'll have you as a conversation starter in 2021. I know there's a lot of questions around this, but let us award to you the official, $1 million Roundtable. You now are official member of the Brain Trust. Let's all of us give them a virtual applause. Give them also a little comment on the chat. Thanks to you guys. I know you're busy people, and I know that taking this time was very valuable. And as it relates to compensation for all of you, some compensation trends. Simple is really important today. These complicated compensation systems, if you can't communicate, if they don't understand it, they're probably not going to work at your company. Simple is really important today. The other thing is any changes, you have to make sure that you do the analysis so it doesn't put you out of business. You know, it has to be financially sustainable. There's a whole nother deeper dive into this we can get to in the future, but we will just once again thank the Gadabout folks, and let's see who the heck is on the call today here. So let's give a shout out to our participants. Who do we have today? We have Kelly. Hi, Kelly. Good morning. Good morning, Amanda here. I think we already gave you a hi. Amy and April from our team, Ashley, Brock, Candace, Gleada from out in Martinez, California. Hey, Kathy and Casey and Christine B, Diane Keller and other members of the Reflect team. We love you guys. Donna, Jackie, James Griffith, Joe and Karen Deanda, good morning. Good morning, Carla and Kip from Tennessee. Kip, how are you today? Lisa from Texas. Louisa, where are you, Louisa, by the way? Are you in Italy? Are you in New Hampshire? Where the heck are you? Good morning, Linnell. So glad you joined us today. And Mari, and of course, our good friend Marilyn Iloff is on here. Megan and Jana. We all, of course, know and love Marilyn and Mark Pardo, Mark Gonzalez. How are you? Melissa, Michael, Michelle. Hello, Nina, Philip Gould. Hello, Roman. Good morning. Sam Bricado, I saw some questions from you. Hello, how are you? Sam J. Shannon from our team. Sherry's joining us today. Susan, Aaron's from Studio B in Colorado. Terry McGee, good morning, Terry. Both of them are 2 to 10 members, Susan and Terry. Tracy, your ears were ringing yesterday from Devontae. Carrie was singing your praises. And we also have Victoria on here, Victoria Anthony. Good morning. I think we had a question come from Sam Bricata. I think what we're going to do is we'll get to some of Sam Bricato's questions later. I want to stay on time here. And let's see what else we need to cover here before we wrap up. Let's see what we've got. All right. Okay. Grow and go. A lot of conversation these days. Hot topic is bringing employees in as partners. If that's something you want me to cover on one of these roundtables, I'd be happy to, is how you can have key employees and bring them in as partners on a gradual basis without ruining things for anybody. Again, please, this is the call to action. If you have not signed up for Serious Business, sign up. By signing up for Serious Business, you can join us next Tuesday, 10:30 to 12. This is Central Time. You're going to want to be part of this. This is 90 minutes, and it's going to have a multi-location focus, but it's going to be appropriate for everybody. So Serious Business. And if you did register for 2 to 10 in 2020, you get a complimentary ticket. You should have had an email to that. You get a complimentary ticket to Serious Business if you did sign up for 2 to 10 in 2020. We also have our Qnity in action. We now have group coaching, which is amazing. And speaking of amazing, these are 3 of our coaches. All of them come from multi-location businesses. All of them have a great head and a great heart, and they're there to help you. Again, no roundtable next week. Instead, we're doing 2 to 10. And our next roundtable will be on January 27th. So closing thoughts. I don't have any further closing thoughts. I just am really pleased that we addressed a topic that's on many of your minds, and that's compensation. And you need to approach it with care. You need to approach it with due diligence. You need to approach it with your head and your heart. And it is an area many of you may want to be looking at as you look at your business model going forward. So it is 59 minutes after the hour. We are going to end on time. Again, thanks to our friends from Gadabout, Megan and Jana. Take care, and thanks for joining us.